Hey YouTube, happy Saturday. Dolemite is my name. What do you say? Kicking motherfuckers' ass is my game. Or something like that. I just watched Dolemite. Okay, it's Saturday morning. I just watched Dolemite on Netflix. Y'all gotta check this out. Okay, this is the movie that Eddie Murphy's made. There was pretty much an all-star cast, but Eddie Murphy, Mike Epps, and Wesley Snipes are the ones I was most familiar with. Also, that guy, you know that guy who does well, whatever. All of them have got acting credit. I wasn't going to talk about this movie. That's why I didn't take notes about it or anything, because I said, well, it's just a comedy. But it wasn't that at all. It was about this guy named Rudy Ray Moore. Now, I don't know how I missed this dude, because I was raised in the 70s, right? And coincidentally, my very first job in Indianapolis, Indiana, was at the Uptown Theater. And this is where he premieres his movie, Dolemite. His movie was premiered independently by himself at the very theater where I worked as a 15-year-old boy. And in the same time period, as far as I can tell, I worked there, I must have been 1974, something like I was 15 years old. Yeah, 1974, 75, 74 maybe, 73, 74. Yeah, so right at the time that this movie's supposed to take place, I was working at the theater that they have in this movie. It didn't look like the same theater, but I don't remember the insides, frankly. But that was the theater, the Uptown Theater in Indianapolis, Indiana. When I first started working there at 15, when I went in there, the movie that was playing was Superfly. Superfly. Remember that? Then he had the Mac, Black Caesar. All these exploitation movies were going on at the very same time that this man was premiering this movie in Indianapolis. So I should have known about Rudy Ray Moore, about Dolemite, but I didn't. I've heard the name. I remember hearing the name. I remember hearing the story about the sanctified monkey. Somehow or other, I thought that was Richard Pryor. But when he says that he told old stories. So when this thing opens up, this guy cannot figure out what he wants to do. The character played by Eddie Murphy, Rudy Ray Moore. He's working in a record shop as assistant manager. He's made some singing records that didn't go anywhere. He's MC at a club that they won't give him more than 5 minutes. Right? So basically, this guy wants to be famous. He don't know where he fits exactly, but he is sure about one thing. He wants to be famous, right? So at some point, he gets the idea of making a comedy record, and then coming up with this character that these homeless people were telling them about, this Dolemite character. He tries it out at this club where he was the MC. The people liked it. He ended up making records. And he has some success records. It kind of reminds me of the story of Richard Pryor a little bit, and it also reminds me of the story of Tyler Perry. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so at some point he wants to make a movie now. These movies are popular. He wants to maybe he can be a movie star. No one will back him. They say his audience is too small. So he's rejected a lot in the beginning. He somehow manages to get this movie going. A lot of it by borrowing money from this company who did not want to produce his movie. But he talks them into it because they hold his record contract, right? So they tell him, if this thing doesn't come off, then you're going to owe us for the rest of your life. In other words, we want you to sign over the rights to your music, your records, your comedy records, as leverage, right? So by hook or crook, he gets this movie made. It sounds like it might be a pretty awful movie, but not awful in like a slapstick kind of way. This was the exploitation. I don't think I ever saw any of those movies though, and this was the time when I was coming up, or the time where all these movies, exploitation movies, were being made. Blackula, everything was black. This mostly the main characters were either pimps or whores, or people running from pimps or whores. I think Shaft was a cop chasing down pimps, hoes, drug dealers, things like that. Anyway, so he makes this movie. We're led to believe that this movie is pretty awful, in as much as he is going in there. I guess he's some kind of pimp superhero type character. Anyway, he don't know any karate or nothing, right? But yet he's got these big scenes in this movie where he's doing karate on people. And the director said, "Well, can you at least make these people look like they're actually hitting somebody?" They said there is no angle like that. So this is there's perhaps meant to be serious, but it comes off comical, right? Kind of like a cult type movie. I'm sure it has an audience even today. People like stuff like that. But then he has to try to promote it, of course. Now, this is what I admire about this guy. See, I've written things myself. I've written 5 books. I fell down with the promotion of these books, right? I never made anything happen with them. This man is persistent. He finds him a writer. He finds him as a director. Now, I will say this. I was not satisfied with Wesley Snipes' performance at all. Right? They have him as this guy. He meets him in a strip joint. He's got women with him at the time, but they presenting him. I thought they were presenting him as a straight guy with perhaps a drug problem, alcohol problem, because he did some sniffling, things like that. But there was nothing gay about the person. But later on as the thing progressed, he starts showing all these gay characteristics. So I was confused by that character. And Wesley Snipes is a much better actor, I thought, than that. I don't think he fit that role that well. But it could be just me. Anyway, so Wesley Snipes plays the director who has worked in other movies. He's played bit parts in big movies, right? He's not that impressed by this movie. He thinks it's awful as well. But they pay him, so he does the best he can. He gets some students to do the all the cinematography. And they turn some scenes in the movie that are supposed to be a serious movie. They turn them into straight slapstick comedy type thing. Anyway, so when it comes time to release this movie, should I be telling the whole movie? Is this a spoiler? I don't think so. I think this is general. You can get this in the promotions. And they get down to Indianapolis. Needless to say, I almost got teary-eyed in the end of the movie because they did play that right. They always make it seem like this is not going to be a success. It's going to be a failure or whatever. And then at the end, they got this scene where, there are lines and lines and lines of people to see this movie, and it becomes successful kind of thing. But yeah, it was a good movie. It was interesting. It's interesting how this guy was able to, just on his own strength, create this Dolemite character, create records. He even had a little bit of a singing career because before he had the comedy records, he had made records as a singer, right? But he wouldn't give up. That's why I said he reminds me of this Tyler Perry deal, right? When I first saw Tyler Perry, the very first time I saw him, hysterical. Everyone laughed. Everyone who saw that movie laughed about it, right? Hysterical movie. And we knew something was there. As theater, it was a great play. I think the first one was called Family Reunion. But when he started making movies, it was like, oh no, this is not going to work. That character is not going to work on the big screen. I thought that, and several of my people I would talk to, because we were discussing Tyler Perry a lot at that time. He was just becoming very popular. It's not going to work. Medea is too slapstick for the big screen. How are you going to have serious scenes with this woman in there, chopping up sofas and all that? But Tyler Perry was persistent, and look at him now. He owns his own studio. I mean, he's got movies, TV shows, all this stuff stemmed from him doing those plays and then turning those plays into movies. So that's what I mean about, because he was dealing with companies as well. I think he got that big contract with a partnership with Lionsgate, which they had never done stuff like that before, right? But he knew his audience. This is the same thing I get from this Dolemite character. They knew the audience. They knew what would make the audience laugh. So in that way, it was great. The Richard Pryor reference, I say Richard Pryor only because Richard Pryor had a very filthy mouth, extremely filthy mouth, where he just basically cuss records. And he turned that into being the highest paid actor in Hollywood at the height of his career. You see, these people who don't give up, produce their own stuff until something happens. So I admire that part of the movie. It was good. I don't think I would enjoy going back to look at the old movies now. I think I heard Sean Bradley say something like that. He wanted to actually see the actual movie. Those like exploitation movies now, they really seem pretty silly. But when they came out, when The Mac came out, and Superfly, and Shaft, those movies were great at the time. But they seem kind of silly now. Not only with just black movies, exploitation movies. You just look at some old movies, period. The acting seems too much, it's too dramatic and all that. But at the time, that was the style of acting. Even with Betty Davis movies, and it was so over the top. So now the thing is to be real, to look real. Anyway, so I recommend you guys to see this thing on Netflix. Dolemite. Dolemite is my name. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is the producer. I've noticed a lot of these guys, people who have had big careers in Hollywood and so forth, in their later years, they produce their own stuff, which means they're able to go and get whatever they want to work on. They can just make it happen. They don't have to audition and, try to get other people involved in it. They can be the producers themselves. So he produced this thing. And it's good entertainment. It's great. Okay, so that's Dolemite. Play. Some say one of the fathers of rap. He was rapping comedy. Later, that rap became a musical thing, but at that time, he was spitting. Later.